Welcome to Danny Brown Talks Phoenix. I am your host, Danny Brown, and today I am joined by Jen Weller of Fidelity National Title. Thanks for joining us, Jen.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do with Fidelity Title?
I'd be happy to. So I'm Jen Weller, and I'm a sales executive at Fidelity National Title, and I've been with them 14 years as of last week, which is kind of crazy. Thank you.
14 years with one company. That's pretty rare in this day and age.
Every year is different. There's no two, kind of like every deal is different, but every year is different. It's getting harder, but it's good. It's good. I love it. So,
well, work should be challenging. If it was easy, then everybody would do it.
Exactly. Exactly. That's why not everybody stays.
Right. Absolutely.
Same with real estate.
Yeah, absolutely. So how did you get your start with Fidelity?
So that's kind of a funny story. So initially, my good friend from high school actually said, you should be a marketing rep. And I said, a what? She goes, a marketing rep. And I said, I don't know what that is. And I was in sales. And at the time I was in copier sales, which was the hardest job of my life ever.
I'm sure.
And I lasted 6 months in that. And then I'm not a changer. I'm very loyal with what I'm doing. And I ended up in a sales job working, selling office supplies. And then my friend Jen, her name's Jen also, said, I got you an interview with Mary Lou, our sales manager at the time. And she's now our president. And I said, thanks, Jen, I'm not interested. I just took another job. And she's like, please just meet her. And so I met her, and it was perfect. It's real estate without working weekends, because I know you guys work 24/7.
Yeah.
It just... I don't know, and I got to work with my good friend, Jen. At the time, she was assistant manager at a branch in Mesa, in East Mesa. And I was still single, so it didn't matter. I could drive anywhere and go. And then now she's still with the company. She's actually our escrow administrator, but it's because of her that I'm at Fidelity now. And Mary Lou's now our president.
Very nice.
And she's amazing, Mary Lou Polk.
It's amazing how things can all just kind of fall into place and work out.
Yeah, yeah.
So let's kind of start with, I'd say, the basics. What is Fidelity National Title as a company? So I know that people probably have seen Fidelity. Are they affiliated with the other, like Fidelity Investments? Are those two separate companies?
Those are separate. Okay. That is one thing people ask us a lot if they're the same. No, our stock gets held there, but no, it's separate companies. But Fidelity National Financial is our parent company, and they are in a lot of different areas. And that's what's kind of neat. It's not just one thing. We have our title division, which Fidelity is one of several title companies. And we have our home warranty company. We do 1031 exchanges through IPX. We have data companies. The Black Knight was our data company. We also own Blue Ribbon Holdings, which is the group that owns Village Inn, which is how the pies came about.
Yeah.
J. Alexander's restaurant. Now they're buying a lot of technology. So Real Geeks, Sync, Commissions Inc., Sky Slope. That's really been their focus lately, is because that's where they kind of see things headed, is it's only getting bigger with all the technology.
Absolutely. So Fidelity Financial, it sounds like it's a pretty big conglomerate then.
Yes.
It has its hands in a lot of different fields.
Yes.
So I kind of want to stick and focus on just the title portion.
Sure.
So can you kind of explain to me what title is for those in our audience that may not know?
Sure. So what is title insurance and why do you need it? Well, I can tell you more what can happen if you don't have it, and some of the pitfalls that could happen down the road. So, and not every state uses title companies. Some are attorney states, but in Arizona, we are a title state. And if you didn't have title insurance and recorded everything on your own, what if 2 people ago somebody didn't have their wife sign a disclaimer deed when they sold the house, and she came back and said, this is my house. You didn't sell it without me saying okay. She could file a claim and potentially take back the house. or if there was a construction loan happening and a contractor didn't get paid. He could come back and put a lien against the property. And so there could be some pitfalls there where you could actually not have free and clear title insurance.
So title companies basically exist to transfer title from one owner to the next and make sure that that title is clear of any sort of liens or potential pitfalls, judgments,
list pendants, tax liens
that could affect the new owner.
Yep. Free and clear title. That's what we're insuring. And if it's not, then they file a claim. And then that's why we're here.
So can you even process a transaction without using a title company?
You can, but it's risky.
Sure. And that would be like using a quick claim deed rather than going through and doing like a
right, and recording it yourself.
Okay. Yep. Okay. So I didn't realize you could. I've known that you can add and remove spouses and family members using a quitclaim deed, but I didn't know that you could actually process a sale and transfer of ownership completely using a quitclaim.
Well, and this is more escrow officer territory, but I know they don't recognize quitclaim deeds anymore. It's more special warranty deeds now because there's not enough coverage on the quitclaim deed. So that's one thing that I know has changed in my 14 years.
And so someone is under contract and they have to use a title company. What are some of the benefits of using Fidelity Title over, there seems to be a lot of them, a lot of different title companies
There are. Well, the biggest benefit of using us is we're going to be around. Every time the market goes up and it goes down, there's always attrition. And whether it's real estate agents, mortgage companies, and title. And I remember I was with Fidelity when the first, when the crash happened. And it was a scary time. And, we were watching all the lending companies with the mortgage implodometer go out of business. And then a lot of title companies, same thing. They didn't have enough money to pay their staff, keep the lights on. They were closing their doors. So what happens if that's your title company that's supposed to cover a claim for you? On your policy. So that did happen to quite a bit. We have, last I read, I believe it was $1.4 billion in reserves.
Oh, wow.
More than any other company. Even I think all our other competitors combined, we still have more than they do.
So the general public should then care about who the title company is because and correct me if I'm wrong from what it sounds like, is that if a title company were to go out of business, the insurance that they issued on that title is no longer valid?
Well, it depends what paper they wrote it on and what company, but if it's on a Fidelity paper, we're going to be around.
Okay.
Because depends who the underwriter is, but if the underwriter goes out of business, then your policy could be in trouble. We're not going anywhere,
So who are the main policy issuers then for title insurance?
As far as for what paper? So I know it's Fidelity National Financial, which will have several underneath that. You could be writing on Chicago paper, which is one of our Fidelity companies. I know we're acquiring Stewart Title right now.
Oh, wow.
That hasn't gone through yet, but it's a merger, I guess. It's supposed to I believe in first quarter, maybe be finalized. Old Republic, and I don't know all of them, but those are the big ones at least.
Okay,
yeah.
So it sounds like then that you have your issuance of title insurance, and then you can have smaller title companies who are writing on that company who's issuing the title insurance.
Correct.
Then? Okay.
Yeah.
So a smaller title company then may not be the one insuring the title at all. They're just processing kind of the paperwork.
Correct.
And in those types of situations then, are they charging additional fees that a Fidelity or a larger company may not be assessing? Would that be fair to say? Because they have to make money too? They
could be, or I mean, I don't know, because everything's through DFI, and so we still have guidelines that we have to for our rates and everything, and we get audited all the time.
Yeah, well, I'm sure.
All the time.
Anytime
so
you're
we actually audit our own
money.
files just to try to be a safeguard that we're doing everything the right way and not overcharging, undercharging. We can get in trouble either way, actually. which is kind of funny for undercharging. But.
Right. What are some of the things that the public can do? So they're, somebody's buying a house and they're under contract and they get the what's called the title report, right? From the title company that shows kind of the chain of title. If there's problems with it, what are some of the things that the public should look for when they're getting that title report?
Even before that, I always recommend when you're listing the property to have us pull a listing kit, just because that is going to give you everything recorded against the property. So you can kind of look at that ahead of time. We can email it, we can print it, we can put it in a book. But that way, sometimes people forget, like, the HELOC in their, the credit card in the back pocket is actually
a lien against the property.
Just things like that. And the title report will find all of that. But if there's anything that needs more time, or bigger deals, such as tax liens or things like that, it can usually help alert that.
And so the typical timeline from start to finish is about 30 days, would you say?
Correct, yes.
What is a title company doing during that entire 30-day process? Can you kind of give us a rundown of what that looks like from the day somebody goes under contract to the day somebody closes, maybe like a step-by-step explanation?
Yeah, so from the beginning, once we receive the earnest money check and then the contract, then we go ahead and open title and order the title report from our plant here in town. And that usually takes about 3 days for it to come back. And then it depends too if there's an HOA or not. The HOA, some people want to rush and close things fast, but an HOA report takes 10 days, and you can rush it, but doesn't mean you get it.
And so the HOA report, that's kind of a copy of the rules and regulations that a homeowners association has. Is that what you're talking about?
I believe so. I honestly, that'd be more escrow because I'm on the marketing side. So I just know that they have to get their HOA report to close. And sometimes when people want to do quick cash closes, that can be the holdup.
Right.
So it's always the first question, well, is there an HOA? So we can get that started.
Yeah.
And then really it's making sure everything's clear, making sure we balance with everything, all the payoffs are in, and we have the right date, so all the payoffs are right. Then we sign usually 3 days prior to close, so that way they have the 3-day right of rescission if there's a loan happening on the property. That was a big change that happened after the crash.
Yeah,
so
right.
People could make sure that this is, sleep on it for 3 days before.
So that's when the closing disclosure gets issued and basically has all the final numbers on it.
Correct.
The buyers and sellers can review that and make sure that everything kind of adds up and that there's no surprises.
Correct. And they can sign in our office, at work, at home. We do a lot of out-of-office signings now just to make it easy.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Very convenient.
We've signed at soccer games, the airport. It's kind of crazy.
Why is it that with with all title companies, you have to actually sign in this day and age of technology, why do you still have to sign everything in blue ink and it has to actually be ink? Why hasn't kind of DocuSign taken off in the title world?
I think because of fraud.
Yeah.
Because we're very strict on our notaries that are approved in our realm that we trust. And even though they're not technically employed by Fidelity, they have to be on our approved list. And there's just so much now with people trying to intercept funds that we just have to make sure that's all done correctly. A human, which is good.
Yeah.
We don't want to, be put out of business. So.
Absolutely. I know that there's a lot of fraud happening right now with wire transfers as well.
Yes, there is.
What are some things that people can do to kind of watch out and make sure that they're not getting taken advantage of or getting wrong information for
the
wires?
Number one thing is to be aware, first off, that it's happening, because not everybody's aware that they're watching. And they've gotten really smart too, because Gmail is probably the most hacked, actually, so that's probably the least safe.
Yeah.
I know, but you have to have Gmail for half the things you do. But they'll watch emails go back and forth, and then they'll jump in at the end and usually try to impersonate the escrow officer. And we always say our wiring instructions will never, ever, ever change. They'll always be the same. So if there's anything suspicious, do not call the number on the email, because that's whatever number they want you to see.
For sure.
Google us, or, use a card that we had given out, and call the office and ask to speak to the escrow officer to verify wire instructions, because we will never change them at the last minute.
Yeah, I recently had a good friend, and he was under contract on a new build, and the new build company had their email hacked, and they didn't know it. And someone towards the end of the transaction emailed my friend pretending to be me, and it was like Daniel.Brown, like dot something.
Weird.
It was just odd. Sending him wire transfer instructions. And he immediately called me and he's like, "Hey Danny, I got this really weird looking email."
And why would it come from you?
Right.
Yeah, that makes no sense, because you
that
shouldn't have anything to do with that.
Yeah. And come to find out, the builder's email had been hacked, and another person had actually listened to it and sent their money off.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And it was, I think they had said it was over $40,000.
Did they get it back?
No.
Wow.
Yeah. So they were just out that money.
That's awful. Yeah, and they're really smart. They'll change just like one digit, or make an I and L, or just something to make it for the instructions to look similar. And it's really, really unfortunate. Could be a lot more money than that even in some of these.
Yeah.
So,
and from what my understanding with the wire transfer fraud, what's happening is it goes to a U.S. bank, but then from that U.S. bank, once it hits their account, they then wire it out of the country. And once it gets to that point, the odds of you getting it back are pretty much
they
zero.
transfer it so fast.
Yeah.
I remember I got hacked from using a QR code, and I mean, it was within like an hour. They had a charge at Saks online for $1,200, Walmart in San Francisco, and Uber in another state.
All from a QR code.
Yeah, all from a QR code.
Wow.
So I don't use those anymore.
So the lesson here for whenever you're doing wire transfers is to call and verify with whoever your escrow officer is.
Yes, and we'll always send them encrypted, and then you unencrypt it. So don't ever forward it to somebody else. And it'll never come from the real estate agent. It'll always come from us. You shouldn't have anything to do with it. So
no, I would never send wire transfer information.
There was an agent that was unencrypting it and sending it to.
That's terrible.
Because she was trying to protect someone that was elderly, but that is then putting the agent in harm's way.
Yeah, it puts you at risk for sure.
Yeah.
So the title companies, they're supposed to be independent third parties, correct?
Correct, yes.
And so in Arizona, who is selecting this independent third party? Is it the buyer, or is it the seller? Is it the agents?
It's changed a lot over the years. It's really funny that most of the time the public doesn't really care. They leave it up to the agent.
Yeah.
And I always say that it's good for the agent to have those relationships, so that way if there is an issue, they have a bat line to somebody that they know and trust, and they know each other and how they work. But even some of my best friends have forgotten I'm in title. And they're like, "Oh, I just bought a house." I'm like, "Oh, why didn't you use us for a refi?" Or
my face is everywhere, and I do all of this stuff, and I still have friends that are like, "Oh, I bought a house," and I'm like, "Oh, I'm in real estate."
That's what I do, right?
Yeah. So definitely that happens, I think, in every field.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So then it doesn't really matter who chooses. So how does a title company? So obviously we have a relationship, and I work with Fidelity a lot. How does Fidelity remain a neutral third party then? So when it comes to disputes or disagreements, how are they kind of making decisions and not letting their relationship sway them in either direction?
Yeah, I mean, we're just supposed to be in the middle. We usually we're just a holder of the funds while things happen, and if there is a dispute that goes to our corporate office, then we have a legal team that can get involved if need be. And that's actually shared. The legal team's shared amongst all of our brands. So it's not just for us, because we have about 6 companies underneath our realm.
So regardless of whether or not we have a relationship, or I have a working relationship with an escrow officer, it's not that escrow officer that's making the decision. No,
it's definitely not the escrow officer that makes the decision, because they do so much. I mean, we couldn't put that on them. And it takes a village. There's so many people. It's not just me. It's the marketing. Not just the marketing. It's the escrow officer, the assistant, our title plant, our legal team, our admin. There's so many people involved, and if something gets escalated to that point, then they'll usually pull in our legal team if needed. So that way it's not just us.
Yeah, and it kind of remains neutral.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's good. And if there is a dispute, then it's the title company who ultimately decides who the funds are awarded to, or who's in the right versus who's in the wrong.
They a lot of times will make a decision, but if not, it can go to mediation, and then that's when they'll decide. But then it's a longer process.
Absolutely.
So,
And the fees that are charged then, they actually go to stuff. When we're working with clients, they're looking at their settlement statement and the breakdown of the fees, and they kind of see all the fees that title companies are charging, that the lenders are charging.
Yeah.
But there's a purpose behind each one of those charges that
Correct.
are accumulated. I mean, you've got,
that's why we're audited,
right?
So we're not charging just to charge. Yeah.
And it sounds like it takes, you just said, a village to handle a single transaction. How many people would you estimate are involved in handling a single transaction to get you from the start to finish?
That's a great question. Because not just the people in the branch, I would say probably about 8 to 10 people.
Wow.
And it could even be more than that, because the title plant, because there's so much happening there. I mean, because I know our operation, we can have anywhere from 60 to 100 orders a day.
Wow.
Just from our group. And the title plant, again, covers all the brands, so it can be a lot.
So it sounds like buyers and sellers should actually care who the title company is, and not just necessarily leave it to their agent.
And we have to staff up a lot when, there's a refi boom, or commercials doing well again, because we have a lot of different, builder side. There's a lot of different realms besides just traditional real estate for residential. And especially when refi booms happen, we have to staff up for that as well. So, and then that means the title plant has to staff up.
Sure.
And,
which we've been in a refi boom for probably the last, 8 years?
It has been really good. I know we've definitely felt it recently with the rates going up just a little bit. So, but it had to go sometime, I guess.
Right.
So
yeah, Fannie Mae put out an estimate recently that they think that the mortgage industry is going to shrink by over 30%.
Wow.
Because the refis are disappearing.
Yeah. And we have felt things tighten up the past few months for sure with that. So now I'm hoping they hold steady for a little while with the rate increase. So, do
you have any predictions on what 2019 will look like from a Fed policy and kind of where we're going in terms of long-term projections?
We do a lot of trying to look in our crystal ball and see what's going on for the future. And in fact, I'm setting my own personal goals tomorrow. So I'll be cramming, doing all that tonight to figure out where I'm going to land. But so far we're anticipating very similar to this year, maybe not quite as good as this year. We were really strong the first 3 quarters, and then it definitely tightened up for Q4. But overall it was still an amazing year. And the people that I've talked to, we get a lot of data from Tina Tambior from the Cromford Report. And so far it's looking like things are going to be very similar, still a good year. I think the homes buyers right now, what I see is people don't want to do much to them. They want to move in with them ready.
Right.
They don't want to spend a lot of money out of pocket fixing up things. So the homes that are selling are usually the ones that are either a deal and an investor swooping in, or it's turnkey ready and the buyer doesn't have to do much to it. Yeah. I'm kind of noticing that on our end as well. Are you? That the homes that aren't updated and renovated, they're sitting longer and taking a lot longer to sell, because the people want everything just to be finished. They don't want to have to worry about it. It's like we've gotten busier with technology. I know, it's supposed to make our life easier. Yeah, I know. It's just complicated things. There's no more, I always hear about when MLS was a book. And you came and you would go through the pages to see what listings were. Now things are so fast. I mean, by the time you take someone out, there could be a contract on it. Absolutely. I mean, you got to move fast. So that makes everything happen faster. I think that's why I can't stay awake and read anymore. It's just because I'm so tired from how fast life can get. Yeah. If I try reading at night, I fall asleep within 10 minutes. Yeah, same. I have to read in the morning. I used to be able to read. I don't even read anymore. I just do Audible.
Yeah.
It's the only way, because I'm in the car. That's my
So much.
office.
Yeah, absolutely.
All the time. So
I'm big into podcasts.
Yeah. So you can listen to this all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it'd be weird if I listened to myself. A little pretentious. But anyway, so to kind of get back on track a little bit, when it comes to the title and escrow, buyers and sellers should absolutely care with who they're choosing.
Yeah.
And it sounds like Fidelity's been around for a long time and that they're going to continue to be around for a long time. Do you have advice for buyers and sellers that may not be working with me specifically on how they can encourage maybe their realtor to investigate and give them additional information on the title company that they're trying to, get them to use?
Yeah. I would just say that make sure they have a relationship with somebody. That's one thing I haven't understood, is why a realtor wouldn't want a relationship with one. There's some agents out there that don't really care who the title is.
Which is strange. I mean, speaking from my perspective.
Maybe it's because that's my job, is working with realtors and helping them in their business and to be more efficient and figure out how to be better.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you partner up with somebody
Absolutely.
that is basically there for free to help you?
I mean, and when you work with somebody consistently, you can call in, not favors necessarily, but you can get things done faster. Or like you said, the bat phone, like if I have a question and I need an answer right away,
or you can alert the escrow officer, this is a tricky one. They've got a trip planned and they got to get things done before they go overseas. Or, just like to have that communication where they know how you work. Because everybody is on the phone less, for sure. I mean, everything's like email and text, and I actually prefer those methods of communication now. But there's times you have to be on the phone.
Yeah.
Someone had said, text is for communication, phone is for conversation. And I always try to remember that, because there's sometimes we're just texting too much or emailing too much and there's no tone.
Right.
And you got to pick up the phone sometimes and call and be like, hey, just so people understand. I think that's why emojis are so big.
Right.
So if you say something without
an
emoji, it could come the wrong way, or if it's all caps, why are you yelling at me?
That's actually one of our core values. I'm the oldest one on our team. And
that's crazy.
I'm 37, and everybody on my team is millennials. And so one of our core values is sometimes you need to have a conversation. You need to pick up the damn phone and talk to the people. You can't just text. You can't just rely on email, because stuff does get lost in translation. Things are complicated, and you can actually save a lot more time if you just have a conversation rather than
going back and forth a million times. And it's going to be interesting to see where things go. I mean, my kids, my oldest one is 11, and when I was his age, I was on the phone all the time talking to my friends. They never talk on the phone.
No.
If they are, it's through Fortnite headsets.
Right.
That's it. It's not. Even we were out trick-or-treating one night, and he was with his friends, and he's like, all right, I want to hurry and get home. I'm like, why? He's like, so I can get online and play with my friends. But that's how they are. So what's it going to be like in 15, 20 years?
Yeah, it's a really odd time that we find ourselves in, where you've got, you still have people from the greatest generation. You've got baby boomers. You've got Gen Xers, millennials, whoever's after millennials. I don't even, Gen Y.
I think it's.
Is that
Z? Was it
Zenny?
I think it's
Gen Z. Yeah. They're all in the marketplace at the same time. So you really have to kind of pivot on how you communicate to make those people feel comfortable. I've helped clients who have told me that they fired the last people they worked with because they only would text me and I want to have a conversation, or vice versa, that they would call me all the time and it's just send it to me in a text. Like, why are you calling me?
Right.
They seem mad. So, I mean, that's one of the first questions that we ask people is, what's your preferred?
Yeah.
So.
And what do you find? Like, what do most of your people say their preferred communication is?
I think it depends on their age. I think, baby boomers and older prefer us to pick up the phone.
Right.
My age, I'm not quite Gen X, but I'm not quite a millennial.
You're like stuck in this limbo.
Stuck in that middle part. But they all kind of prefer text and email over anything else. And of course, the younger you get, it'll be interesting to see if we start doing like more video chats,
right?
Because I know a lot of the young kids communicate through Snapchat and some of those different apps. If we'll start doing video conversations where I'll have to explain what a title report is when we get it, shoot it over to them and do like a short little video explaining to them what I've sent them, and then shoot it over. But
then you could have that in a library, so you don't have to
do it
over and over again.
Which we do.
Yeah, of course you do. Of course. Yeah.
But I don't think I can't send it through Snapchat. It's an actual.
Right. Yeah. And I used to hate text. And
I know, right?
Now I love it. Like I in the beginning, I'm like, how rude. Why wouldn't they just call me?
Yeah.
And then now I'm like, why are they calling me? Can't they just text me?
Right. Yeah. Communication, it's a fickle thing. So where do you see kind of the housing market in Phoenix going into 2019 and kind of beyond? I know you said you're tied in a lot to the Cromford report. We pay attention a lot to that. That's where we get our market updates from. And I've been preaching and saying that there is no bubble, that the housing market's going to kind of remain relatively flat and balanced and super boring.
Yeah.
Going into 2019 and into 2020. What, from a title perspective, and you have access to way more agents than I do and resources. So what is Fidelity telling you? What are your guys' long-term predictions?
So I don't know if we can say, because I hear a lot of different things. I know that I was listening to, we have some investor groups and then different panels that speak on them. And one of them was a luxury panel, and one of the agents on there deals with a lot of, high net worth, and also high net worth people that deal with the economy and globally. And I think they were from Switzerland or something, but they were anticipating things to not crash, but come down around 2021, 2022.
Okay.
And, not that I want anything to ever crash. I don't want it to crash. However, when we do have these peaks and valleys, that's when the opportunity is created. And
sure.
So many people are moving to Phoenix, especially number one from California. They're just wanting to get out of California.
Yeah.
And I'm always amazed. I feel like our number one group of people here should be from Chicago, because I feel like everyone I meet is from Chicago. So I would think Illinois, right? That and Canadians.
Yeah. But Arizona's number one import is Californians.
It is. It is. And they, I think everything from the taxes to how much you can get for your house compared to what you get here. We don't have the traffic. I mean, I had a little traffic getting here today, but it's nothing like California. I mean, they're weekends, it's even worse. And that's not like here. There's no one on the road on the weekends. We just have land as far as you can go. So as long as you can survive those 3 months or have another place somewhere else to get out of here in the summer, it's a great place. So I think for Phoenix, there's just going to be a lot of opportunity, whether it's investors coming into the market or people coming here to retire, or even businesses moving here. Mm-hmm. So I feel personally that it's only going to be good things for us here. So I'm glad to be in the Valley.
Sure. So as we kind of wrap things up a little bit, do you have any advice for buyers or sellers out there, or somebody thinking of getting into the real estate market, whether they're investing or whatever, when it comes to title and the escrow process?
Yeah, I would just say to make sure first and foremost you have a good agent. That can just, you don't know how bad things can get till you have a bad experience.
It's true.
And there's a lot of great agents and a lot of bad agents, and it's almost more important who to stay away from. So do your research, talk to people. I would have no problem with anyone ever using your group, because you guys are doing way more than a lot of people out there. And just make sure that the escrow officer and the company is good on the communication side. I
think that's really important.
Yeah. To be proactive, know, and then alert anybody about things, or representing a Canadian, for example, or things like that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different variables, or foreign investor. FIRPTA is becoming a bigger deal right now. So that's, we have booklets and things we can provide to help educate people on that. So
one of the things that I really like about Fidelity and your team specifically is that, the real estate transactions very much a hurry up and wait process.
Right.
So you get you go under contract and you get all of this stuff thrown at you all at once from, 6 different people, whether it's your agent, the lender, and the title company.
Yeah.
And what I really like is the accessibility of the people on your team at Fidelity, that when our clients or when we have specific questions, you may not be available right then, but you always call back, and it's, always within the same day. And everybody's, I don't know if dumbed down is the right vocabulary, but you explain it in terms that people understand.
Yeah.
They don't use the real estate vernacular that could go over somebody's head.
Right. And then you feel stupid and don't want to ask what that is, because so maybe I should know that.
Right. Yeah. So your team is very considerate in that manner when explaining things to clients. And I've always, really appreciated that with working with Fidelity.
Well, we have access to everything now on our phones. So even if we're out of the office, still get everything on our phone. So we know what's going on. We just can't always do it right then and there, but we see it. Yeah.
Do you, quick question, do you think everybody closes everything at the end of the month? Is it advantageous to close at the end of the month, or could a buyer or seller save themselves a lot of headache picking, the middle of the month when there's not as many transactions?
Absolutely.
Is there a benefit, or is that kind of an urban myth to closing at the end of the month?
If it was me, I would not want to close at month end when everything else is closing, because that's when all the stress is happening.
Right.
Everybody's trying to get things in before the end of the month so they don't have to, redo payoffs and all of it. And it's not that big a deal if it's prorated for a few extra days, to either buy early or a few days after month end. But you're going to miss the wave of craziness, whether it's a builder, closing out a bunch of deals at the end of a month, especially end of year.
Yeah.
I know I bought my house in December of 2008. Can't believe I've actually been there that long. And looking back, that's insane. And we pushed up our closing because we didn't want to move like 2 days before Christmas. But it was really nice to move in the middle of the month.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the big deal is. I don't know if it has to do with like rents and leases or what the thing is, but I would definitely try to avoid that if you can.
Yeah, I think people are like sheep.
Yeah, exactly.
And you get herded and you get told you should close at the end of the month. Yep. But I would imagine, so you're closing towards the end of the month, and if everybody's also closing towards the end of the month, it's this trickle down effect to where it's harder to probably schedule your signing, because the title company's probably full of people signing. And so you have to, either really plan far ahead to get that scheduled or whatever, so that
we have people show up that haven't been scheduled. We're like, we didn't know you were coming. Let's get that worked up real quick.
Your agent's probably stressed because they're going to, if they're like us, we're having multiple closings, not just the one at the end of the month, hopefully. But movers, I imagine that movers are really booked towards the end of the month. Like just everything.
Well, and I don't know how you guys deal with it when things happen and there's a moving truck.
Oh, it happens all the time.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
What can go wrong?
I mean, if it's just an urban myth,
like in that, I would say close on a Thursday, not a Friday.
Because
if something goes wrong on a Friday, you might not be closing till Monday.
Yeah. Well, that's something that we kind of do, is we try to close on one of the last Thursdays of the month.
Just to give that pad time. You always got to have a plan B.
Maybe we should start focusing and closing more towards the middle of the month instead.
And on a Wednesday.
See, I learned something.
Yeah.
Great. Well, any closing parts of wisdom to pass on to people before we wrap it up?
No, I think 2019 is going to be a great year.
Yeah, I'm excited for it too. Yeah, I think that the housing market, I don't think it's going to be as pessimistic as people think, or as bad as people think. That I think it's going to just kind of remain like what it is right now.
Yeah.
Just kind of steady, constant, vanilla, and boring, which is actually going to be a good thing.
Right.
Yeah.
So are you going to do the pie in your face again in 2019.
We'll definitely be giving away pies. I think I'm going to try and I might try and get my team back. They've gotten me twice back-to-back years, so I might
gonna punk them.
I might try and get them some pie in their face. Although
Right.
Abigail did get a face full of pie this year, which was, I mean, that was the funniest part of the whole thing was Abigail getting
Right.
shot in the face.
Right.
Yeah. So we appreciate your partnership. We've loved working with you
Absolutely.
guys and
Likewise.
look to continue that on. So thank you so much for coming on the show today, talking to us a little bit about title and explaining to us the process and the purpose of title. Yeah. I don't think a lot of people understand why title exists.
Hopefully we made it a little more fun because it's kind of a boring topic, but we have a lot of fun in title.
Yep, absolutely. So thanks everybody for tuning in. This was another edition of Danny Brown Talks Phoenix, and we will see you next time.